Okay.
Hello, and welcome to our live Q&A with NetObjex. My name is Dr. Andy Boyan from Chainlink Labs. You guys can call me Andy. Today, we have a chance to learn about the Internet of Things, or IoT, and of course, how Chainlink helps get IoT data on the blockchain. NetObjex collects data from IoT devices and provides it to enterprises, consumers, supply chain systems, whoever needs it, and now including to smart contract applications via Chainlink oracles. So these IoT devices can collect a really wide range of data types, and they're super exciting. They allow all new kinds of use cases for technology and smart contracts, and I'm going to let our guests get into those use cases, but they are really exciting for businesses, potentially saving tremendous costs, creating many more efficient processes and supply chain, et cetera. And honestly, they just make cooler end user products as well. So we've got a Q&A session for our guests. We'll have a little chat. Then we'll look to the YouTube chat and answer your questions from our live audience. So let me introduce our guest today. We have NetObjex CEO and founder, Raghu Bala. And joining him is Director of IoT at NetObjex, Sreeraj. So how are you guys doing today?
Good. Thank you for having us. And we're excited to be here and answer any questions that our audience will have, and also talk about what we are doing, which we think is pretty exciting stuff. Brings together IoT, blockchain, and also some amount of AI. So.
Yeah, I know the Chainlink community is really excited about IoT, like as a potential technology. It's in the works now. It's like working. There are products, and it's only going to grow. So that's fantastic.
Just a quick change. Director of blockchain is Sreeraj, not director of IoT. Director of blockchain.
Oh, okay. Director of blockchain. All right, good. Thank you for the correction there. Okay, so why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, give us a little bit of your background, how you got into this, and what is your team building? I'll let you guys take turns.
Sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of NetObjex. We're based in Southern California. We've got offices in India and Vietnam as well. And we've got customers in 4 continents: North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. And we started off as a IoT or automation company. And soon we realized, this is about 3-4 years ago, we realized that blockchain can play a very integral role in, especially when you have ecosystems where there are multiple participants wanting to have a single source of truth without having it be modified in any way and so on. So we started to include blockchain as part of our solution. And we acquired a company in India, and through which that acquisition, Sreeraj joined us. And just a little bit on a personal background, I've been in the software industry for about 30 years, formerly with Yahoo, InfoSpace, Pricewaterhouse, and so on. And I'm also the current instructor for AI and blockchain for MIT Sloan Online for the executive courses. Actually, my blockchain classes are going on currently. But that's me in a nutshell. I'll turn it over to Sreeraj to give his background.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Raghu. My name is Sreeraj. I am the current director for blockchain at NetObjex. So I started off into the blockchain space around 4 years back, and I was a co-founder and chief architect of a company here in India, and that's how I got to meet Raghu. And NetObjex actually acquired us 3 years back, and I've been here, into the venture up from that point. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I feel like IoT people kind of naturally get distributed systems because you're dealing with many, so many different distributed data points already. And then you kind of come over to smart contracts and blockchain distributed systems. Can you guys tell me a little bit about like how NetObjex approaches IoT, what you guys are building, and like what do those distributed systems look like?
Sure. So that's an interesting part because our platform is quite broad. It what I say, it stretches from what we call edge computing, where you have these sensors and other sort of equipment to collect data, to do data acquisition. And then in 2019, we introduced our own gateway product called the Pi Cube. It was a kind of a souped up Raspberry Pi. And in the future, we'll have further iterations of that product, which would include GPUs and so on. The idea is, if you look at just distributed computing as a whole, as a kind of a broad stroke, there's a yin and a yang. You always have computing power either going towards the edge or going back towards the cloud. It keeps going like a pendulum, back and forth, back and forth. We have seen this many times in history. Mainframe, very heavy centric, server centric, and then you went to client server, which is kind of distributing the load back to the client. Then you went to web with the thin client, and then back to the server side having the power. And then when in apps were introduced back to the back to having some edge computing, and this goes back and forth in our industry. And now we are at the point where in the first iteration of IoT, a lot of the edge computing resources were not really that intelligent or capable. They were just collecting some sensor data and then sending it back to the cloud via 3G, 4G, 5G, LTE, LoRa, Sigfox, whatever protocol, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and so on. But now what's happening is the edge computing devices are becoming more sophisticated. They are able to collect data. They're able to process a lot of things on the edge itself without having a hop back to the cloud, because that's very expensive. So imagine if you are talking about an autonomous car and going down the street, there's not enough time to bounce it to the cloud and come back. It's just too slow. You have to like chop, make a decision right away. So we are spending some effort in trying to make these edge devices a little bit more capable. And these edge devices can be embedded in a lot of things. So it could be in an appliance, could be in a refrigerator, could be in a car, could be in your lawnmower, could be in a sprinkler system, whatever it might be. So that part of it, we are spending quite a bit of time. Now, one of the things that Gartner Group recently had us in the 2020 hype cycle for was edge blockchain. So these edge devices themselves could also participate as nodes in a blockchain, for instance. And so one of the things that we're doing is integrating our edge devices into a blockchain. And the one that we are using currently is Algorand. So we are part of the Algorand family accelerator and things like that. And later on, Sreeraj will cover how we are also integrating Algorand with Chainlink and building that bridge between the two. And that's a pretty exciting blockchain technology as well. So anyway, so this edge computing with blockchain is one aspect. So what happens is there is a Harvard Business Review paper that all the listeners can read about, and the title is kind of provocative. It says, "What blockchain can't do." And so for a blockchain enthusiast, you are like, "Oh man, like blockchain can't do what? I want to know. I want to find out." But the answer to the story is something that we even cover in the MIT course that I teach, which is blockchain can't do the last mile. So the last mile is where IoT comes in. So you have the cyber physical system, right? Cyber being the cloud and blockchain and other enterprise systems and so on. But the physical is the world that we all live in. We walk and breathe in this world, and the physical world involves all of this equipment, which is maybe autonomous car, drones, your equipment, your appliances at home, and so on. There needs to be a glue between the two, and that's where IoT and blockchain sort of come together. It's kind of the meeting point. And so that last mile is what we're talking about. So we are the platform that bridges these two end-to-end orchestration. So
for some context, the last mile problem, it comes from energy distribution and like internet and phone lines. It's really easy to get internet into a rural area, like the big fat cable, but it's really hard to get it from a data center or a center in a rural area out to every individual house or building, because you've got to dig up all the streets, you've got to find the infrastructure. That last mile problem is a major challenge. And so these IoT devices, if they're now providing computing on the edge, that's a game changer, right? Like,
right.
It used to be you'd stick an RFID sticker on something and it would say like, I'm here or I'm not here, and that's it. But now these computing devices, they can drive, they can do all sorts of other things. Sreeraj, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so we kind of think that edge devices would be evolving from the current Raspberry Pi or Arduino-based small-scale systems into much larger capable systems, like using GPUs, for instance, and too far down the line, maybe quantum computing would be coming into the edge as a lot of people are working on it. So edge devices will start to become more capable. And that's when each of these devices could have mesh networks of their own, running as nodes for blockchain and decentralized oracles. Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys hinted at this. My next question is, how do you see IoT playing a role in the future of smart contracts? You've already hinted at this with some validating at the edge there for blockchain. So I definitely want to hear about that. That's really cool. But then also for smart contract use cases. Let's start with the blockchain use case.
So the smart talking about smart contracts, I'll just say this. So there is this whole world of parametric contracts, right? So parametric contracts, for those who are not familiar with it, are contracts that run on the blockchain. It could be a service level agreement, could be a letter of credit, bill of lading, any sort of contract when one party has to fulfill some requirement with another party. And let's say a service level agreement. I used to be a CTO of a major media company, and in those days when you are not really collecting data in real time and so on, you'd sign the contract with the vendor and throw it in your drawer and not look at it until renewal next year. But now with smart contracts, what happens is you can actually get real time data from whichever equipment or service that you are trying to write a service level agreement for, and have a smart contract govern that agreement to say, okay, your SLA is supposed to be 95% or 98% or whatever it might be. And you're getting real-time input from IoT devices, which are telling that smart contract, hey, you know what, this guy has now fallen below his threshold. So you need to, there has to be some repercussion, some reaction. Like it might be the vendor has to pay you something or make do something, or send you new equipment or whatever it might be. So that's where you talk about parametric contracts, where the smart contracts on the blockchain, IoT is giving you input into the blockchain as a smart contract in order to trigger some action to happen. So that's the sort of link with smart contracts. As far as just IoT being used for blockchain, just purely blockchain, not really for smart contracts, what we are doing is at some point, we believe there are some use cases that we have already demonstrated at IoT events, even in the Bay Area a couple of years ago, where we did smart parking, where a car can talk to a parking meter and do a transaction, a payment. There's some, I'm oversimplifying here because there's first of all a process of discovery. A car saying you are really a parking meter and not some guy with a phone trying to scam my car, and vice versa with the parking meter. So both of them discover each other. Then they have to authenticate one another. Once they authenticate, then they can start to transact. And so the parking meter will tell the car, okay, you know what, you get, you stayed in the lot for 32 minutes. So it can be, it doesn't need to be like the current 1 hour lot or half an hour slots. It could be down to the minute. You stayed here 32 minutes. I'm going to charge you 10 cents a minute. So it's $3.20. You got to pay that much or whatnot, like that. You can get down to that level of granularity. And those are types of transactions that we sort of power. We've already demonstrated it several times. But world is still catching up. So at this point, we have a diagram which shows the evolution of the machine economy. All of the things that we're talking about here is the machine economy, where you have smart connected devices. Initially, they are used for collecting data. Second, they go into the mode where they themselves can start to self-heal and if a machine is not working, it itself will notify you and saying, like, I need an oil change now, please take me to the shop or something like that. Your cars these days already do that. A lot of the cars tell you, you're due for service A, service B, whatever it is. Then we also see the Uberization of these devices. People stop buying assets. They start to rent assets. We're already seeing it in the cloud computing space, but that'll happen for everyday things also, where you don't buy servers anymore. The only people buying servers, I think, are Amazon and Azure and Google Cloud. Nobody, no one hires a network engineer because those guys hire it and we all share that. And then the final phase of this four-part evolution of machine economy is when machines themselves start to transact. And so there comes the concept of an embedded wallet between devices, like a car having a wallet and a parking meter having a wallet, and then having a transaction and money moving across for services or something like that. So that's where we are headed. And blockchain has the role to play in the sense that it can be used for recording these transactions or payments and things like that.
Yeah, and authenticating them securely.
Exactly.
So we talk about trust minimization a lot. Is like, what's the point of a smart contract? Well, it's a contract that you don't have to worry about. What you set it up beforehand, you know the data coming in is good, and you can verify that, and then you know that transaction is going to execute, and so you can leave it. So that allows these machine-to-machine transactions where you don't need a human involved. They can run, they can be secure, and they can generate profit for both sides, right? There's a lot of business and revenue opportunities there as well.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about.
So one thing that has really kind of just got me thinking is Ethereum nodes. There's 8,000, 10,000 Ethereum nodes. There's 12, 14,000 Bitcoin nodes. There's a lot. But when we start talking about IoT devices and edge devices as nodes for blockchain, that number it goes J-curve, right? That's an exponential change. So I don't know, maybe you could talk about that. I know that's not kind of on our list, but it was just a really cool thing that you guys brought up. You're working with Algorand on that. Can you just talk about that a little bit? What does the future look like if there's millions or billions of decentralized nodes? That's a crazy future.
Yeah, I think so. When you have so many nodes, obviously one of the things that is going to come into it, and I'll have Sreeraj talk about consensus algorithms in this sort of context as well. So, it becomes very important. I think not only are you going to have a lot of nodes, but also your time to finding consensus has to be relatively fast, because I always think of this stupid example where I'm standing in a checkout line at the supermarket, and not self checkout, just the regular checkout. And if I'm slow, the person behind me is gonna get very antsy. They're like this guy in front of me is so slow, it's not moving. And I look at the consensus algorithms as being like that, where if your consensus algorithm is gonna take 5 minutes to reach consensus, just the equivalent would be like I'm standing in the line 5 minutes trying to get through the checkout, and the next guy is going to get so pissed. So these algorithms have to be really fast and have to come to reach consensus really quickly. So one of the advantages of these newer blockchain or newer methods of reaching consensus is they make decisions based on a smaller number of nodes, and they have kind of a rotating set of nodes that they select randomly to come to some consensus. And then, of course, it's got this prevents the 51% problem and other things as well at the same time. But they are relatively quick, and that's very important. I think when you have these billions of nodes, there are thousands and millions of transactions happening simultaneously. It's not going to be one by one. Like right now, if you look at the number of transactions, even though on a worldwide basis, I don't know, but you can't quote me on this, but I don't know if it's as many as credit card transactions or bank ATM transactions going on at the very same time. I think it's catching up in a rapid fashion, but still, I think small compared to the other traditional transactions that go on. So now, when you put in blockchain nodes or edge computing as nodes, then you're going to get a lot of this. So we need to have a faster system overall to handle the traffic. Sreeraj, please comment on some of these things as well. I know we've been talking about this. You're on mute, I think. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. So during the evolution of consensus, there are many concepts that come up with the edge device having managing the consensus. So there are localized consensus. So only a certain set of nodes can participate in a state channel, running a separate set of state channel, and then confirming back the data within the channel back to the main chain. Then there's also nodes trying to authenticate themselves. Right now, we in the proof of work systems, we use the network hash rate just to prevent the Sybil attacks and all. And in proof of stake, the money itself. But going forward, it'll be IoT devices authenticating other devices based on the connectivity. The local devices can see if the other device is within their reach or not. There are many platforms and blockchains trying to do that. I think Helium is one of the mesh network that is trying to achieve this on this IoT devices. So yeah, consensus also will evolve to have edge devices incorporated as nodes, full nodes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, data is blockchain agnostic by default. Well, if it's off-chain data is blockchain agnostic. That's why Chainlink, as a protocol, tries to be blockchain agnostic and just facilitate some of that communication, because you may need that. Set up custom networks with data. Maybe you can get actually geofence networks, right? If it's particular, you got edge devices, IoT devices doing some of that computation, well, then you can more easily do that and do a decentralized network. Maybe it's a country that's not very well populated, Mongolia, for instance, right? Huge geography, but not a lot of people. Well, if it's on edge devices, you can still get a lot more nodes. So that actually could change the security game in geofencing, things like that.
Right. Now, your density of your nodes can go up significantly now. So that's going to change a lot of things. And the nodes themselves can also be, carriers of information and data and things like that. You're going to have a very dense network. Yeah. So that's definitely good. And actually, just coming and touching on Chainlink, I think we can talk about it. I think you might have a question or two on that. But Chainlink is a critical part of this whole ecosystem, because what we are dealing with is existing systems that are already out there. A lot of companies have made huge investments in existing infrastructure, and that might be in the form of SAP, Oracle, those types of systems, and which are systems of record in many cases. And we need to marry the world of blockchain to Chainlink and things like that. So that's an important piece that Chainlink helps us with. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that is absolutely my next question, is how does Chainlink integration help you guys out? How are you using Chainlink? The thing that I've seen is the data that comes from IoT devices then can now go onto the smart contract economy. So people can build dApps based on IoT-based triggers. So what other kind of use cases are you seeing in those kind of terms? Like, get us excited.
So, Sreeraj, you want to take that, the Chainlink integration? We have done a few already, and maybe you can touch on the few that we have done.
So basically, touching base on what Raghu mentioned about the parametric contracts, that's where a lot of data needs to be queried from an IoT device. NetObjex is primarily an IoT device management platform. We collect data from edge devices and store it on various systems like S3 and IPFS for decentralized storage. And right now we are trying to get storage also integrated to our platform. The thing with edge devices sending data is there will be a lot of unwanted data, that's not relevant to be for a smart contract or to be published to the blockchain directly. And with the extended gas cost and all, it's not very feasible to send all the data directly to blockchain. So that's where we store it in a off-chain decentralized storage, and only when required on demand can we can query the data for a smart contract. That's where Oracle comes into place, Chainlink comes into place. Also, in future, as we mentioned, nodes can integrate an Oracle node on themselves, and on demand directly the real-time data can be queried from IoT devices as well. So in parametric contracts, specifically in the field of trade finance or supply chain. So in supply chain, containers shipping from multiple parts of the world would have IoT devices integrated to monitor the temperature of the goods or various other parameters. So a contract would be drawn up on the smart contract as a parametric contract, stating that certain conditions are to be met for the payment to be released from the escrow. Otherwise, the transaction would be invalidated and certain party would be penalized. So in that case, we can in real time poll in random intervals also. The smart contract can poll the parameters of a container and always validate if it's up to the mark or not. And towards the end of the cycle, they can release the payment from escrow depending on the current parameters. Yeah. So a lot of other interesting use cases are also there. We actually implemented 3 for our customers, one in the travel and travel domain actually. So there's a partner who's implementing certain types of energy monitoring and water monitoring in hotels and restaurants. So when customers use or stay at a hotel and they do not judiciously use the energy and water, that kind of harms us all. So just to promote, incentivize good behavior, they are trying to tokenize the energy usage, water usage, and issuing reward tokens. and the same can be redeemed against food or beverages within the restaurant and hotel, etc. So that's one place where we integrated the Chainlink Oracle, where edge device would be collecting data every 5 minutes and 10 minutes, but that need not be pushed directly to smart contract or blockchain due to the gas intensive nature of Ethereum right now. So we store it on our decentralized storage, and during intervals, we'll be querying it. We use a cron job to do that. And every 24 hours, we'll be issuing rewards based on the information collected from the IoT device. That's one use case. There are a couple of others. One in the oil and gas domain, we have a client called OmniFlow, who is managing oil pipelines, oil flow through the pipelines actually between different customers. So over there also, we are trying to demonstrate a automatic payment system, a smart contract that governs the parameters of a transaction, what rate of flow there should be, the density of oil, things like that. And in real time, they can check the data and execute payments once the transaction is done. And another third use case would be Acquai, one of our client who is also in the water sensor measurement industry. So they are more into homes and hotels and offices. They measure the water consumption. So over there, we are trying to do the other way around. There could be a smart contract which governs certain schedules for turning on a device. Let's say a sprinkler, when to turn on a device, and in future, a home energy management system could query the current weather patterns or the next week weather patterns from a external system, and based on it, it can plan the schedule, when to turn on certain lights or when to turn on solar panels, etc. So if, let's say, in the next week it's going to be rainy, it can run the solar panels for more time this week. Depending on it, can change the schedule patterns of devices working, and it can send out a message back to the edge device, actuating the device to turn it off, etc. So that's also an interesting use case that we've been working on.
Yeah, you guys have mentioned parametric contracts a couple of times. We often talk about, and Sergey often talks about parametric insurance, where if you set up an insurance agreement beforehand for, so there's one I've seen that's really interesting. It's for water levels. If you're a shipping company and the water level is too high, then your packages or your shipping is in danger of not making it on time. And so you can have IoT devices that measure the water level of a given waterway, whatever that passage is. So that can pull data in and then automatically pay insurance out or not, and set up those contracts really in a nice way. So a lot of options with parametric contracts and tons of use cases. Any place you can put a sensor that's pulling in data, there is a use case. I like to think of IoT because it's one of those creative spaces like smart contracts is, well, the infrastructure is there, get creative. What can you build? And then people like yourselves and other people are building really interesting things. So speaking of what's next on your product roadmap? What are you guys working on? What can we expect from NetObjex?
So in our world, we call everything a digital asset. So one of the things that we have touched upon today is these digital assets could be instrumented with IoT sensors and so on to collect data and then to trigger certain actions like payments or talk to enterprise systems and things like that. But we also have another class of digital assets which are purely assets, not necessarily collecting data, but they're assets that we can tokenize. And one of the things we've done is in the past, in the energy space, we worked with a Spanish energy company called Iberdrola to tokenize hydro, solar, and wind energy. And the way we did it was to have integration with smart meters, and then figure out how much excess energy is being added to the grid, and then tokenize that energy into a NFT. And then and NFT, as you know, is all the rage right now in the press for collectibles, but also we can tokenize IoT data in the form of NFTs is what I wanted to share with the community. And that NFT can then be sold exchange, and then other people can purchase that to offset the energy bills and so on. So this NFT craze need not just simply focus on collectibles; it's got other use cases, and we have worked on it for quite a bit of time right now. So
right, and energy credits is a great use case. Go ahead, Sreeraj.
Yeah. Just adding, one of our hero product is the data marketplace that we are trying to build. Data marketplace is upcoming domain where edge devices would be able to sell data directly to other devices and enterprises, etc. So that's another place where oracles would come in. Data would be collected at the edge device. It will be tokenized in the form of NFT and will be sold on a marketplace. And other devices which wants to collect the data, just like weather data, let's say the home energy management system, HEMS, wants to purchase the next week's weather data from a nearby weather station, let's say. So it could be bought off a marketplace as an NFT, and NFT is just a representation of the actual data. It just holds the metadata, not the actual data. Once a purchase is done, the actual data would be streamed in a peer-to-peer fashion, and that's where oracles can validate the off-chain data and help in transaction of that. Since there would be a off-chain node, a network running for Chainlink and all, they can communicate with each other and can actually transfer the data.
Yeah, that metadata issue with NFTs is really interesting, and we'll start to see the effects of that. There's got to be infrastructure that solves sort of this problem here. I'm going to turn to our questions from the community. We've answered a couple of them already just in talking. One of them, which domains would take a lead in IoT blockchain? I feel like we've covered a lot of that, but if you guys can talk about some of the others, so we talked about monitoring for the environment, for insurance, or for shipping and supply chain contracts. What are some other sort of edge cases? I know we talk about edge computing, but like interesting sort of emerging cases that might be. These ones are not necessarily in development, but sort of fun ideas.
So one we have done is not really edge, but more asset tokenization is in the diamond market, where there we are actually we've got over, I'd say, close to $5 billion worth of diamonds in our blockchain. So that's one area which is a more asset tokenization. In the case of edge tokenization, we look at drones as a growth market. These drones are going to be, they're autonomous, right? They're on their own pretty much. You give them a flight plan and they're off running and doing various things on their own. And so these drones are going to be equipped with a lot of capabilities over time. Today, the first drones might be just like, your old-fashioned pigeons, which were delivering messages before the postal service was in play. But they are just simply go drop off a package and come back. But I think that will change over time, where the drone itself could request a signature from a delivery to be from a human or another machine to say, you have to sign off that I delivered this thing. And that might require some interaction, and the drone itself will have that capability of doing that. Actually, there is one which I have not tried. Maybe some of the community people would have tried it already, but it doesn't work in my neighborhood. But Domino's, for example, has got a self-delivery vehicle dropping off pizzas, and I have always wondered, like, how would that look like? But I tried to choose that option on my online order, but they said, don't do it in your neighborhood. I live up the hills, maybe because of that, but I'm just curious if someone has tried that, because that will be kind of cool.
What I've noticed is, I'll get an Amazon delivery or whatever, both either UPS or FedEx or whoever, and they'll drop the package off and they take a picture now. Like it's the proof
they do.
Of that. So that has really started, but it leads to this idea of like proof of delivery at the time, at that last mile. Those sorts of cases are ready. It feels like we're primed for that kind of thing. All right, now I'm gonna throw out a weird one, because this is total sci-fi. This is what I want. I want an IoT device that can measure my body heat and my exercise, sort of personal health, and then I get credit for exercise, proof of actual exercise, and then it validates a node on the blockchain. That's my dream. I don't know if that's coming, but
I think it's possible. They just have to make sure that it can detect your sweat, instead of there's a commercial that's on TV where a woman puts the Fitbit on her dog, and her dog is running around doing the number of steps. As long as we don't trick the system, I think it's good.
You get some crypto people to find those edge cases, and we'll find the exploits for sure. The next question is going to lead into kind of a wrap up here. This has been an awesome conversation. Somebody asks, when will be the first product live? Can you guys give us a hint about like where we can go and find what your business and yourselves online? I know you guys have live stuff right now, so people can go check it out. Go ahead and give us that spiel, and then we'll wrap things up here.
So, I mean, obviously the first source is our website. And then our LinkedIn page and Twitter. We share a lot of information on Twitter, Telegram, and other channels, any happenings within the company. So we do tweet and post what we are doing, any new developments and things like that. So those are the primary sources by which we disseminate information right now. We are about to start a podcast soon, and a weekly podcast on the latest happenings, because there's a lot going on, both internal to the company as well as in the industry, which are not company specific. And so that would, I'd like the community to look out for that, because that will start sometime in April as well.
Fantastic. Well, let me know, because I'm always interested in these IoT and blockchain and new technical things. You guys can tell I get excited about this stuff. Great. Well, that wraps up our video Q&A for today. Thank you again to Raghu and Sreeraj for joining us from NetObjex. All the community members, thank you for viewing our stream and on YouTube later on. Again, I'm Dr. Andy Boyan from Chainlink Labs. You can call me Andy. Other team members helped put this together, so thank them as well for helping out on the technical side. Be sure to like and subscribe to help more people learn about NetObjex and Chainlink. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.